All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can see the tape is set up. I'm going to show you the weights after, but these are 20-pound lead dive weights. I've got two of them on the bow, and I am going to set this up so that I've got this in one hand, and then I'm going to measure it this way, like that. So now I'm just going to line my string up and get a measurement, and what I'm seeing is I've got 29 inches of draw with 40 pounds of weight on the bow. Well, I know that my draw is 32 inches, so I'm going to want to continue to add weight until I get to that, and then I know what the maximum, what the draw weight is for this bow. So we're not done yet. Now, what I've decided to do here is to put on a grand total of 50 pounds, because it's been my suspicion that this is a 50-pound bow. So there's these guys. Little tiny, let me just see if I can show it to you there. It says 3 on it. Then we got these guys that are just a little bit weaker, a little bit thinner if you look. So there's another 5 pounds. We're just going to add that in. Okay. Only we're not. We're going to add this guy in there too. That's another 6 pounds. Then we're going to add this guy. That's 8 pounds. So now we're at 48 pounds. And we're going to see what that does to my draw length. And I'm guessing we're going to see more than 29 inches now. In fact, we're going to see more than 29 inches now. And the trick is to see how much weight it takes to get it to my draw length of approximately 31 inches on this bow. So 31 should be right about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it to my 31.5 draw that I know that I have already. And I'm going to give it right to the edge of that. And now I'm going to hold this up, and then I'm going to measure, and then we'll see where we're at. So I'm going to try and do this so that you guys can see this in some kind of fashion here. So I'm going to, now one of the things is here, I want to make sure the weight is in the middle so that as I'm pulling, it gets a nice even bow. Oh, we're getting close. We are at 30.5, which, because this is a pretty short bow, I'm going to assume is pretty much maximum draw. In fact, even though I know that I have a 32 draw length, that really felt like it was at maximum deflection. So I'm just going to show you here. So I had 48 pounds on here. Now I have felt like at max, it's right at 50 pounds. Well, I know I had it right out to that. So I'm guessing it's a little lighter than that. We're going to call it 48 pounds because I still didn't technically get, for example, I have done this before just to see how much draw I can get on this bow. And I get that same exact 31.5 inches, guys. That's as far as this will draw. What I did was experiment. I found at 40 pounds, I only was showing 29 inches of draw. So I added the extra 8 pounds, and that got me to the back of it. Now at this point, this is kind of what I was talking about before, where I said that you could add more weight and it really wouldn't matter. At this point, okay, it takes 48 pounds to get to the back of it. Well, that's all I needed to know. So that's it for that. And now I'm going to move on to the next bow, you might think. The problem is I know that I don't have the power to do that because this is all the dive weights I own. I do have some more, but they're this type and they won't slip onto my belt. So I knew the only ones I had was these old school lead weights that worked for that, but they're great. I love old school lead weights. So just to clarify, that was my little bow, guys. That was my weakest one. And I have now verified its poundage. And I know it's pounds at various draw weights. So what I can tell you is we can verify those for you right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 25 pounds together, which is half of this bow's draw weight. And we're going to show you where that is because that stuff matters. And just so you can see, we got the unmarked one here, that's 2 pounds. We got this guy here, that's 3 pounds. And just for the record, those little green ones are also 2 pounds. But these are actually the ones I use in my dive kit. I put one of those in each pocket, and these are really great because you're not handling the lead. I've been handling these lead weights for the last 5 minutes, and I already have lead on my hands. So I'm just gonna load this up. So now I've only put 25 pounds here, guys. And to be honest, to my hand, it feels like more. Like I'd swear these are in kilos, not in pounds, but they're not. All right, so now I've left something out of the loop here. So what you do is, this is the easiest way to test your weight, guys. You can take some weightlifting weights or some diving weights and just set them up. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at two things. You're going to look at how much weight is on it and at what draw length. So we already know that at 31.5 inches, it's 48 pounds. So now we're going to verify the next measurement, which will be whatever it is at. So we're just going to lock it out at 31. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give you guys a view while I check it. Put that into the middle. Get it some grip, and up we go. And we're going to lay a measurement in here. Look at that. It's a mere 25 inches at 25 pounds, which is actually pretty cool. In fact, I found at 40 pounds, it was at 29 inches when I just put these two on. And the extra 8 pounds actually got it back that extra 1.5 inches. It's really not that strong. So we have our standard measurements there. Because it is a short bow, you could actually measure it at between 24 and 26 inches. And it's 40 pounds, right around that mark. And then at the end of its at the end of its backside stroke sort of thing, at the end of its cycle, it's 50 pounds. I have said you can pull 55. I know that when I'm pulling it to full crank, I'm pulling at about 55 pounds. I can feel it. But clearly the bow doesn't actually need the 55 pounds to get to full draw. What it needs is 48 pounds. So this is a good way for me to verify that I was able to play around with different weight configurations until I found out exactly how much weight it takes to draw this to full. And now I know what that is. So I'd already found out that my full draw was 31.5 inches. Even though I can draw farther, the bow won't draw any farther than that, no matter what you do. So the trick is you just go to that maximum draw and see how much weight it takes, and that's your actual poundage at maximum draw. So we can say that empirically that at 31.5 inches, this is a 50-pound bow. We can also say that empirically that, well, we could actually even say it's a little lighter than that, because technically it took 48 pounds. But I will tell you from experience that these lead weights usually weigh over what they claim. And with this many of them there, I bet money that that's 50 pounds of weights, guys. I've felt 50 pounds of weights in my hands lots of times, and I'll tell you right now, that's 50 pounds of weights when you put all 5 of those together. So I know that this is now a 50-pound bow. Now, I had been suspicious of that, but this is the first absolute proof I've had. In fact, I knew I had it right away when I put 20 pounds on. I was thinking maybe I'm old and weak now and it's only 35. But I wanted to verify it for you guys and to show you how you can check your weights. So the real problem comes where I want to try a heavier bow. And I mean, I take any of my other bows, and this is only going to get it to a very shallow draw. So I will get some more weights and test those later. But for now, this is a great way to go about it. It gives me the ability to check it. And I did, and I'm very happy with the results. I know now that I have a 48-pound bow, which isn't bad. It's a little lighter than I thought. I mean, I figured 50 pounds at least at the back, but that's because I'm putting that much pressure on it, and I know I'm putting that much pressure on it. But that doesn't mean it takes that much pressure to put it to that spot. It means that's how much I put in. So that's the difference between how much you're applying and how much is needed. And so when you're talking about your poundage of draw, that's not saying you couldn't put more effort in and put more poundage in and maybe even get a few more feet per second, but it is saying that you don't actually need to, that this is the amount of weight it takes to draw it to full draw. So in this case, I know that that's 48 pounds. which is actually pretty nice. So it came out a couple pounds lighter than expected. That's fine. I actually like that it's really light pull and rocks out decent shots. It's so much softer to draw than a typical 50-pound bow. Has a much more gentle draw cycle until you're right at the back of it, which is really nice. And that's partly what was proven here. I mean, we get the 29 inches, or sorry, 26 inches or so with a very light pull. With a 30 pounds of weight, I got to 29 inches. So you can access the majority of this bow's power pretty early on in its draw. But it's a nice smooth come on. If you want a really light shot, it'll give you that. If you want a nice medium shot, it'll give you that too. So that's it for this one. You'll notice that I've put the silencer on it. I've only put the one, and that's because that's all it needed. It's also as small a one as I could manage. It's basically like a fat fly in terms of its size. I've added some stickers just for fun because, hey, I'm Canadian and I like my flags and I like my Maple Leafs, and that's cool. But that was it. The bow is finished. It's official. And now I have tested it. Now, if I had the means to write on it, I would write the poundage on the bow at each draw length. And that is what you do, ladies and gentlemen. And that is the last step, because I have tuned my bow. I have built my bow. I have used my bow. I have shot it to the point where I'm quite happy with it. And I fine-tuned it until it was perfect. Now, the final step was to verify the poundage of the bow. This is a great way to do that. The lead weights are, a documented amount of weight, and so they're verifiable. Weightlifting weights are more precise than dive weights, believe it or not. You think with your life on the line versus a workout, the dive weights would be the more precise ones, but they're really not. They tend to be rough cast and they tend to be abused over time. And if you look very closely at these weights, you'll see a lot of spots where they've been damaged. You'll even see some spots in really old weights like these ones where they've been recast and added more lead to them because the guy fine-tuned them for his particular weight, which is why it's hard for me to verify the exact poundage of these, but they are made to be 20 pounds. I think they're 22 actually. But in either case, I'm calling it 50 pounds because I know the weights and I know roughly that it's 50 pounds, pretty sure. And even then, I also know that I got to 31 and a half with me pulling on it as hard as I possibly could, and I got to 31 and a half with the weight, which means I have actually achieved its maximum draw, and that's all that matters. It's not how much weight can I suspend from the bow before I break it. It's not torture testing. It's just to see how much weight it takes to get it to full draw. Now that I know that answer, we're good to go, man. That's it for this one, guys. That is testing the poundage of your bow. I have other bows to do this with, but I don't have enough weight. I'm going to need at least another 60 pounds to keep testing. So there's that. Keith out.